Friends, welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, joined as always by my whitest, angriest co-host.
Juror number 13, Alex Dandino.
Juror number 13, so white, so angry. All right, you guys probably guessed the movie, but before that, a little business. If you could take a second right now, leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show, especially if that happens to be Apple Podcast app. Means the world to shows like us. I actually wanted to take a minute. We got one this week, or like 2 weeks ago. We record a little in advance. Austin A. Paul.
Wow.
I tweeted about it, and I don't know if it found him, so I'm hoping maybe he'll hear it on this show. It made both of us tear up. It means the world to us when people take time out of their day to say a kind word, let alone Austin, just a poet. Broke us down.
I was having the worst day, and I got roughly within the last span of like the last 3 days, I got like 4 rejections for something a couple things I'm working on.
'Tis the life.
And then we got that, and I was like, oh, that perks it up right there. There's a little, It's
I mean, it was lovely way to start the day. So like I said, guys, it is free. It takes a couple seconds, but when you guys do that for podcasts, people do see that, and it does mean a lot to them. So I just wanted to say, in case Austin A. Paul
gush.
Here's it. Thank you so much, man.
Really appreciate it.
So yeah, ratings, reviews, guys, wherever you find Apple Podcasts, go to YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. You can see video versions of most of our podcasts over there and some other cool stuff we're working on over there. So again, Film Alchemist on YouTube. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, or find us on any social media site you're on. That's a great way to get a hold of us. Let us know movies you'd like to hear covered, themes for a month, guest host, double features, whatever you want. If you want to put in an early call for October Madness Month, anything you guys want, we want to give that to you. So reach out to us by any means necessary. I do read them all and compile a list, so I do see, hear, and read what you say. Thanks again, guys, for all your work. All right. Time to get angry. Today's final courtroom movie, 12 Angry Men. I have to say, I remember seeing this in film school and being enthralled by it. I'd kind of always carried this beef against the film, is that it feels a little cheating to me sometimes when we just put plays on film, right? And I don't think that's necessarily. I know, but there's something about the cinematic art. What I realized today watching it is that not only is this maybe the most compelling legal movie we've done all month, right? As far as laying out a case and watching the true consequence of it, this is the last second before the waterfall, right? This is super intriguing. Yeah. And I was shocked by how much more cinematic this film was than I remembered. Loaded with great performances. It's really, it's insanely intense. It's essentially a one-room stage play, right? We have a couple diversions, but it always feels very connected and in the moment.
Only 3 minutes of the film is shot outside that location.
Yeah, and it's very naturalistic, right? So I was so much more impressed with this movie that I even remembered loving than before. Alex, opening thoughts on 12 Angry Men.
We always differ in this in opinion. Like I love plays, like I love theater. So to be honest,
okay, I love plays too. On the stage.
Let me finish my sentence before you jump in. All right, you got me here. You get me hot and angry now.
Oh, sorry, juror number 3. Jesus.
I know. I'm juror number 13. Yeah, like I love plays, like I love theater in general, so like I don't have nearly the issue. I understand like the translation, yes, and sometimes it's done so terribly. Like you watch like plays get filmed and you're like, you couldn't have like moved the camera once. You couldn't have done it. You couldn't have been bothered to do anything different here.
Well, let me put this. You'll know this because as guys who write screenplays and comics, right? When I was a screenplay analyst, my favorite thing was when people would send me notes or like, hey, can you do notes on this? And it was their failed screenplays that they're like, yeah, I'm just going to turn it into a comic. And I'd be like, yeah, that's how that works. That's fair, right?
It's the exact
medium matters.
Yes.
And again, I do think this movie does a splendid job with it.
It does. Like for being a one, like there's plays that do the one location bit that get translated to movies that don't work very well because like it really like you can't understand unless you're sitting in a theater how important the theater experience is. Great example. A Few Good Men, which we did not cover this month. A Few Good Men started out as a play. It was one of Aaron Sorkin's first successful plays. The play entirely takes place in a courtroom in the play. Had they done that in the movie, Aaron Sorkin, we would have never heard from him again. Like, there's just no way something as interesting as that works from a film standpoint if you don't start giving it outside perspective and so on and so forth. 12 Angry Men's very different, though. 12 Angry Men. You get him in there, you shut the heat, you shut the fan off, the heat starts boiling. Like, everyone, like, the performances have to be in this compressed environment. And yeah, like I didn't realize this is Sidney Lumet's like first movie.
Lumet. Yeah.
Lumet, sorry, my bad. I'm on.
I was just guessing. I have no idea. You know, I can't pronunciate names. No, but this is
Sydney.
Yeah. Old Sid over there. Old Sid L. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is fascinating about the setup of this, right? Because it's hard to make just people yapping at each other cinematic, right? And especially now, like, you can look at the old studies, right? Back in the 40s, there would be 10 cuts every so often. Now it's like just flying through cuts, right? It's constant visual bombardment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very different in how you watch. And it's hard to just put a camera in a room with 12 crotchety old bastards and be like, hey, talk amongst yourselves. Imagine a Thanksgiving dinner where it's just like all your uncles, like replicated, like raised by wolves out across the table. And you'd be like, kill me now, right? You'd be Brundle flying yourself. That's what this movie asks us to do.
Right.
But they have this great, not only is it life or death, right? So it's these enormous fucking stakes, but it's also this indictment on this. This is one of the things I didn't realize, right? We did Law Abiding Citizen, Devil's Advocate, Exorcism of Emily Rose. This is the scariest legal movie we did, because imagine in the world we live in right now where everyone is so polarized and political about everything. Everyone's so fucking jazzed up. And what this movie asks us to do is assume that those 12 people decide your fucking fate, right? And the movie does a great job of tackling, the lenses of lived experience and POV. Just imagine any 12 people and be like, yeah, I'd be totally cool with them just deciding if I'm going to the chair or not. I mean, it's crazy.
That's the thing that's really interesting about the movie in general is twofold. One, horrifyingly apt for 2021. Like, this movie was made in fucking 1957, and you're like, ooh, there's a MAGA guy in there. I see him right there.
Well, you're just like, we could probably have learned back then, like, hey, talk nice.
I mean, it's just
talk nice.
But the other thing that I think is really fascinating is this is also the only movie that we're doing, and I don't know if there's any other movies that, I mean, I guess there's one other, but we wouldn't have done it. This is the only one that is not taking place in the physical courtroom. Like, this is everything after. This is the deliberations, and I love that we're ending on this one too, because it really does feel apropos given like what we've done. We've done like Exorcism, we've done Split Personalities, we've done the devil himself, but the real devil is man. Like, this is truly like one of those things where you watch and you just like,
I have
Jesus
a theory.
Christ.
I'll unroll on you.
You think
what was
John
your other
Milton's there?
film? I was going to say, what was your other film? Howard the Duck, which is just a total trial against humanity in Cleveland. Oh, don't worry. I'm just the first alien. I'll be over here jizz mopping. No big deal. But what is, because this is the movie starts, right, where they're kind of reading us this is the most serious case you can have, life or death.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about this because I think in my mind, I just started the movie in the room, right? But that final shot when they leave, because I always thought the movie does this really brilliant trick, right? Where they lay out the case as it's presented to them, right? And I think all of us, as soon as we're in a courtroom, right? Because I've done jury duty. I actually got out of jury duty in a horrifying way. I was going to ask you,
have you done actual jury duty?
Yeah, so I got called in LA. This is really bad. I probably shouldn't say this. But I was in LA and I was like, fuck, I got to get out of here. It was all sweaty. This guy next to me had like 4 Mountain Dews. And I'm like, I don't trust anything in this room. You know how I am. I'm real fidgety when I'm in like groups.
Yeah.
And I start like judging and I don't have anyone to do my bits to. So I walked up to the lady and she's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I think I need to be excused. She's like, yeah, what's wrong? And I was like, my wife. She's like, what do you mean? Well, we just had a first baby. Hey, congrats. I was like, oh, thank you. And I was like, yeah, I'm afraid my wife's going to kill our baby. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I didn't like the look on her eye when I left.
Oh my God,
like,
shut up.
Yeah, I was like, I think she's having a postpartum thing. I got a real scary text. I was like, I'm afraid she's going to go after my son, my firstborn son. And she's like, really? And I was like, I'm real scared. You can see how sweaty I am. She didn't know I'm always sweaty.
Right.
And so she let me out of jury duty because I told her my wife was going to murder our baby. And so I called Amy. She's like, why are you calling me? Are you in selection? I'm like, oh, I just told the lady you're going to murder a baby. I'm at McDonald's. And then she's like, this is an abortion of the American legal system. I was like, don't throw that word around. It was a whole fight, but that's neither here nor there.
Why are you getting so hot about that?
But that's what I mean. I was like, I could have been in one of those rooms. And the first thing I thought, right, is uncomfortable as I was sitting in that room. Because I love that. But again, back to that first shot, though. I had forgotten that they show us the kid.
Yeah.
And it's an important thing in the movie because the whole start of this is 11 against 1 guilty. And they lay out the case and it seems pretty fucking crystal clear that this kid did it, right? Eyewitnesses, certain knife, doesn't remember what movie he saw. A lot of this here. So they're laying out the case, right? When we're in a courtroom, I think we're trained to presume a crime was done. I think it's only natural that we assume that this person has something to do with it. But that opening shot where we see them walk away from the back of his head, I thought they left him a faceless defendant. They show him and he's a fucking like Bambi-eyed child. Right. And I forgot that the movie does that because it feels like the only time where they're trying to unfairly influence us. But I don't know if the movie could have survived past it. What did you make of that moment?
I mean, for me, it's interesting because to me, the audience is the one who has to make the decision. Like we are the other members of the court. We are the other members of the jury that are walking into that juror box and walking into that. What do they call it? The like
dais?
No, the decomp chamber. Wherever they make the fucking jury go and hang out for like hours on end before they make their deliberations. Like God damn it, my dad's gonna be so pissed that I don't remember what it is. But either way, like for me, it's fascinating because like you see that and you're like, okay, I have an image in my brain, but I gotta be honest. As soon as we got probably to the 20-minute mark, I started forgetting what the kid looked like, and I just knew he was an 18-year-old kid. Like I think this is like a really fascinating thing the movie does. Is because you see the kid and your immediate assumptions are, well, maybe he did it. Like, again, like everybody goes in like it's an open and shut case. Like everyone knows it.
Yeah.
And then you see Peter Fonda and like, I think this is really fascinating. You're hoping you're Peter Fonda, even though you fucking know you aren't. Like,
Dude.
It's a really important thing in this movie. And I hate to be that guy, but like everyone walks into this movie knowing they aren't Peter Fonda and praying to God they are. And they're not like we all aren't. We all have our presumptions.
Yes. Well, the two things you said that I would discuss, right, is one, I think the thing, because this movie has a problem at its core, which is I think when we see the Bambi-eyed kid, we know it's a movie, 12 Angry Men, whatever, right? I think you would presume watching the movie that this kid's gonna get off with it, right? Although it's hard. I have to put myself back in that time. Could this have been one of the great movies where it does go south and we get that Atticus Finch moment of Peter Fonda, like, this is the American system, right? Had this come out in the 70s, I think Peter Fonda loses. Well, and it becomes this indictment on America because it's the 50s. This is still kind of the Mr. Smith goes to jury duty, right?
I was going to say, there is this like Capra.
Yes.
There's like this like Capra leftover, but it's 57. It feels much more real and feels much more impactful because there is this, because there is this like level of altruism, and there, or I guess altruism is the wrong one, but there is this level of kind of like avenging and like public defending, like legislating essentially from your station as a juror.
Yeah.
And you want so badly to defend the right, but like it puts the whole thing on trial. Like it puts us as people on trial.
And we don't do great, right? But this is the thing.
No,
to your
we're
point,
terrible.
It's not even that I wanted to be Peter Fonda in this movie, but I was. It's this is what scared the shit out of me about this movie, right? It's because again, all the other movies is about the chicanery of lawyers, right?
Right.
They have all their tricks, and I'll catch him on this. I'll catch him in a wordplay, and they talk about how they're playing games with the jury. But in most of those movies, the jury's just remained this fucking blank peanut gallery in the corner.
Right.
What this movie reminds us of, right, is all that fucking, Richard Gearing and Al Pacinoing and all the shit we've seen, right? Mm-hmm. All the slick talk, fancy lawyer shit. What then happens is 12 fucking random people, although not fully random because they're like selected to, fit the mold of lawyers, whatever. But 12 of your peers, air quotes, go in the fucking back and they redo the whole fucking case. Yeah. Right? This is why I think talking politics sucks nowadays, right? Is because like I live in Indiana, so I don't agree with most of my neighbors politically, right? But what I found is it's even hard to try to have a talk about it because you can just hear, oh, this is what, like, whereas we might agree on something. Inevitably, it turns into the talking points, right? Oh, I listen to this podcast, so I say their talking points is like a weaponized gotcha. They listen to the opposing podcast. They got their points, right? Imagine that in a court of law. And what this movie does, it brings in 12 blank men, right? And we don't know their names. We don't know anything about them. And the movie does a fucking brilliant. I mean, this is one of the great screenplays, right? I mean, technically it's a stage play, but still adapted for screen. And it's amazing how much we learn and know about these men. And we don't even hear Fonda's name until the end. And we only learned 2 names.
We only learned 2 names throughout the movie. I mean,
because it doesn't matter because their inner
faceless.
soul
That's
comes through,
point.
and that's more important.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's like Lord of the Flies. It's Lord of the Flies, but men, and they're just as bad as the children. Like it's to me, it's a really important thing to not know their names. Like at the end, it's fine. Like we're done, but like not knowing their names gives them. Yeah, like it gives them the soul. Yeah. It's the soul of the person. Like,
well, I don't know if you thought this, right? But when Fonda says his name, that last shot is so fucking horrifying. Because it's not like, what's your name? Jesus, part 2. It's just, I'm a guy. Oh, I'm also a guy. And they just fucking walk off into the world like nothing happened. This man is going to have life again. And they just walk off. Because again, we all hope there's a fucking Peter Fonda back there fighting the good fight. Probably not.
But
right?
I mean, to me, it's horrifying in the sense that this is like the 2021 sensibility for me. Is like it's horrifying in the sense that these men sat there deliberating over the life of a teenager, said yay or nay over the course of an hour and a half, and then they just looked at each other and said, well, I guess that's our civic duty. I'm going to go home now. Like, I'm going to go home and eat my cold dinner and, I don't know, trying to have sex with my wife, but probably go straight to bed. Like, that's like this really weird and kind of incalculable thing that I'm not sure when you see it the first time.
It's big.
But it's like a big deal that you can just shut it off. Like, this is your civic duty. You literally just sat there and, like, I think about, like, the only other thing I've ever seen of, like, jury, for instance, is there was a documentary that HBO did a long time ago, and I think she actually might have just done a one-woman show or some bullshit. But it was one of the jurors from the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oof.
She described the level of scrutiny that they had to do for jury selection and the actual, like, she talked about her 12 Angry Men moment. Like, she was sitting there and, like, it was a scene where it was straight out of 12 Angry Men where a guy was like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, he killed her, and he killed her, and she like threw the book with the autopsy photos across the room, and it was open to a page of Nicole Simpson's head, and she's like, he cut her fucking head off. Like, but she describes this moment, and you're like, this is like so dramatic. And then we watch this movie, and quite frankly, like, I don't know if it is. Maybe that's how people act when they're in the whatever that chamber is.
This is the difference between that, right? Because OJ was like a national. Kids who are younger than that and didn't live through it, I don't think we'll ever understand.
Kids who are younger than us. OJ Simpson was a football player who murdered his wife.
But like when I was in 6th grade, I remember vividly this one lunch where we talked about our theories. Where I was like, he could have just had a plane and thrown the murder weapon out over like one of those, fucking empty states. And like, I was in 6th grade. Like, what the fuck were we doing? But like, it was so big. We stopped our school. I got pulled out of reading in 6th grade to go watch the verdict. And so, but that's like a huge scale celebrity case, right? This is a man's life, but there's no scrutiny. Like you said, they leave. There's no press. There's no nothing.
No.
It's so matter of fact. And the callousness with which these people take the power of the state, but not only the state, them to take this man's life is really, it's very casual. And that's what's kind of crazy because they walk in, they're all just kind of chit chatting. And it takes a while before we start seeing the real angriness of the men.
Right.
And what's wild is because it's not about the case or the court as an institution. No. What you see is that they start having these interpersonal battles. And the one thing the movie kept asking me, if juror number 3 and juror number 10, the old racist guy, weren't such bags of shit, would that guy have gone to jail? If they had not just insulted 2 or 3 of these guys brutally from the start of the talk, would they have just not swayed? Because when, God, what the fuck's his name? From The Odd Couple. When he turns, right? He's like, I grew up in the slums. Stop talking about me like that.
Oh, when Jack Klugman?
Yeah, when Klugman's dehumanized, now he's furious, right? Because now it's him. They're attacking him, not faceless, non-white teenager, right?
Right.
But if they hadn't done that to him, right? On the second blind vote, if they hadn't fucking crushed him like that, would this guy have just been done?
No.
It's the you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right?
Yes, like obviously there is a certainly a temperament to 12 Angry Men that I would say is like, again, actually it's an odd choice for a title for me because by and large there's only like 2 actually angry men in there. Most of them are pretty even tempered. I
will say this though, I bet if we had the Vegas scoreboard up, how many of the jurors do you think said, "Hey, you don't have a right to talk to me that way"? Like, I think every single juror says that at one point, where they have this moral indignation, like, "How dare you!"
Right, but I mean, like, to me,
but pause on that for a sec. Why 12 Angry Men? Why is that the title? Because it's definitely not 12. Peter Fonda's. I mean, maybe he's like righteously.
I mean,
he gets mad once at a game of tic-tac-toe.
From a writing perspective, I'm assuming it's 12 even-tempered men. Did not sound as good, but
12 totally chill bros that are gonna work it
12 out. Chill bros did not go over well in the
they just all walk into their back room, they're like, "Woo, this is a big one." It's like, "Yeah, bro, a lot of
the Four Locos, we gotta talk."
Do you think that lady wore glasses? Bro!
Oh shit, dog. Dog, dude. And they're like just doing the snap thing
with like a point blank or a point break AI.
God, dude, now I really want to write 12 chill bros.
Yeah, 12 chill bros.
Bro. He's got a good point, bro.
You know about those people? Bro, don't say that. What do you mean those people, bro?
That's not cool.
Bro, you're right. I'm going to go sit in the corner and be sad.
12 woke whites.
Yeah.
No.
12 Angry Men has some snap.
12 Angry Men, yeah, has snap, but also like it's 12 Angry Men for a multitude of reasons. Like you have Warner, is it George Warner, Jack Warner, whoever the guy is who's trying to go to the baseball game. Like he's angry because he's there. He wants this to be done. Lee J. Cobb wants justice, whatever that version of justice is for him. Peter Fonda wants questions, but Peter Fonda wants people to actually pay attention. He doesn't want to just breeze through this. Like,
Yeah.
Peter Fonda's character, like juror number 8, spends the entire movie not trying to like
Henry Fonda. Have we been saying Peter Fonda? Henry Fonda.
Is it Henry?
Henry.
Dude, I can't tell. There's too many Fondas.
Henry Fonda, just for the record,
My
not
bad.
Peter.
Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda, who also produced this and decided after producing it he never wanted to produce again.
Life lesson.
Henry Fonda.
What if he had to deal with more than one location? He's like, the whore!
Forget it! Henry Fonda, though, it's interesting because, like, to me, Henry Fonda just delivers this really interesting performance of, like, it's not necessarily, it's like this weird, like, reverse Glenn Beck, where he's just sitting there and goes, I'm just asking questions. Like, he's not being...
He's doing the Ancient Aliens defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's not being obtuse or anything like that. He's literally saying, like, but why? Like, why do you think it's so open and shut? Like, what about this seems so open and shut to you? And I think that's a really interesting thing for, like, you know, for the time, 1957, 12 white guys walk into a room. And, like, it's a really important thing, too, that they don't give away. Like, before we get to that part, like, juror number 10's little rant where everyone goes, no, not this MAGA, forget it. Yeah. But, like, it's a really important thing that doesn't come up until much later. Like, they're spending so much time on the details, and, like, Lee J. Cobb is like, well, who cares about the details? Why are you getting hung up on the little things? It's like, because the little things matter. Little things make this matter, and I think that's a really important thing about how this jury is swayed to not guilty, is because none of them think the little things matter. And I think that's a really important thing, and like an overall concept in the movie itself and the story, and thematically, to me, all little things matter. Everything little about these people that are sitting in this room together comes up. Juror number 1, juror number 1's a great example. Like, he tells this story when the rain starts coming down. He tells this story how he's an assistant football coach at McCorkle High School, and tells this story. It's a small beat. It's a small, meaningless story to literally the other 11 men in there could not give a shit what juror number 1 thinks. Well, not what he thinks, but what he does outside of this place. Mm-hmm. But it's a small enough story for him to realize there's a shadow of doubt over this. Like, there's a beat that might not be necessarily open and shut. It's a really fast, because, like, he's probably the most even-tempered of the guilty verdict people. Yeah. Who try to kind of like push guilty for a while. It's not until they get a vote of like 9-3 that he decides to switch spots. So to me, that, like, little details, little things about people are what's really important in this movie, and not just the people, like all the stuff they bring up about, you know, the old man with the limp and the lady with the glasses and all that shit. What's really important is the little things that these people notice about themselves. And, you know,
right. Well, that's the trick of the film, is that it's trying to remind us that all of this is small. These are small men. These are not titans of industry. These are not politicians. These are your neighbors.
And
these are you.
Know it anyways.
Yeah. These are just normal guys, right? The one guy's like, yeah, I'm an architect. I'm an ad guy. I'm a baseball fanatic, right? They all are someone we know or we are. So they're trying to remind us that our lives and everything is small, and that the things in this case that we look over, because as they're watching them relive everything and be like, oh, because they keep talking about, you know, I'm sick of the facts. Facts can be twisted anyway. That's like one of the great lines of the movie. And they're mad because the facts are now going against them.
Right.
Because they didn't take things as facts. They took them as, oh, I want to believe. A couple of them even said, I knew from the jump, right, on that first go around. Mm-hmm. And so I think reminding us of how small all this is, and it's a wild concept that we place this enormous fucking burden of jury and possibly executioner on us normal small people, right? And the thought that we can't bring in our prejudices and all these other things that the movie gets to. What the movie does a really good job of, especially for the time it was made in, is this movie does a great job of, because, right, so the first bit around the table, they're painting this kid as guaranteed he did it. Mm-hmm. And you start seeing some subtle racism, like those people, right? He came from a crime, and they're using all that coded dog whistle language and shit, right?
Right, yeah.
what they do though is through the movie, you start seeing the jurors connect evidence and questionable evidence to a personal life experience. Mm-hmm. So what the movie gets back to, especially considering, because again, I know it'll be tired for some people to watch because it's all just old white guys. But what the movie does, even with mostly just old white guys, I think the one guy is Italian, maybe, right? Something like that.
Who?
But
Klugman?
No, there's an immigrant man in the jury.
Oh yeah, I think he's supposed to be Italian.
That's what I thought too. But anywho, again, not important. But he just has a different lens,
he's
right?
A naturalized citizen,
right? But you start seeing these things like, oh, well, there's evidence about the L train. Oh, well, I live by the L train. Oh, the slums. Hey, I grew up in the slums. The knife, right? No one who grew up in a place who knows about knives would stab that way. So you start seeing, and the best example of this is Juror 4, the glasses guy.
Yeah.
Right. Who I have a theory about later. But he's one of those guys. He's the one who's I'll say it now. He plays like the devil in this film, right? He's the John Milton in the room. Because he does.
You mean the guy, the Piglet, the voice for Piglet?
The glasses guy, right? Sitting next to, what's his name? Sitting next to Juror 3, next to Cobb. The guy with the glasses who doesn't sweat, right?
Yeah, the Piglet guy.
Yeah. I don't know what the Piglet thing is.
The guy with the high voice.
No.
Oh,
other side. So he's
the other guy.
Yeah,
okay,
he's the devil in the system,
Sorry,
right?
my bad.
He's buttoned up. He's presentable. He's professional. He's not emotional. He lays out the prosecution's case, right? He plays the
prosecutor.
He's the devil of the system, right? This presumed guilt in a system where we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. He is playing the kind of inevitable nefarious side of that, which is people who were other, we're just going to assume that they're bad, right? Because we're in a court of law. So he plays that crushing system beat really well. And he's the one that they do this to great effect with, right? Where they twice connect it to his personal experience, right? He forgot a movie and he forgot, or he had the glasses, right?
Yeah.
And only when they relate it to his personal lived experience can he step outside of himself long enough to have a reasonable doubt about another human being. So he watched the whole thing, seeing what he wanted. And for a second, when they give him empathy, right? To sit in that kid's shoes for but 1 second to question one piece of evidence, now we've moved on. So the movie, for being, again, all old white men, does a really good job of highlighting the importance of when the system works its best. We should have a variety of lived experiences, right? That's the theory behind it. And it does do that really well.
It does. Like, that is absolutely the theory of how the legal system's supposed to work, which is a jury of your peers convicts you because they've all been in some form of their life is all very.
And you wouldn't say this is a jury of his peers. That's kind of the scary part of the movie.
Even in the slightest. Like, I think that's a really fascinating thing of because look, in 1957, this very well might have been like completely logical to watch this. 2021 is bizarre to watch because you're like, there's no women, there's no people of color, like there's nothing. Like the whole crowd is just homogenized white guys, but it is fascinating. But like, there's one man who's a naturalized citizen. Mm-hmm. So you're sitting there like, there's one man who's had an experience, probably not dissimilar to whatever this boy's going through.
Yeah.
There's Jack Klugman's character who grew up in a bad part of town, so to speak. Like the more, and like I like the point you're making though. Like the empathy is what starts bringing these people around, and what's fascinating is this movie goes from being like at the very start, everyone is there for justice. Like justice must be served. Mm-hmm. And then by the end, it's like, it's not justice. It's not guilty until proven innocent. It's innocent until proven guilty. Like that is the most important.
I think by the end of the movie, we totally switch, right? Where they assume that justice is dropping the fucking hammer. He even says, what's his name? Cobb says, if this was me, I would smack him down before the problem starts.
Well,
He's
he has
assuming,
all these opinions.
Right? And by the end, they're starting to realize the gravity of, oh, fuck, what if? And we're going to send this fucking the state is going to execute him, and we will by proxy be the executioners, right? There's that great scene when Cobb, is like, he's like, what are you? Why is this vengeance for you? Are you his executioner? He goes, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is such an illuminating concept.
I agree.
Because I don't know if you ever stop. Like, I have fucking nightmares about going to jail. To me, it's the most inhumane and horrifying and barbaric thought is that we just take people, and especially for nonviolent shit, and we're like, you go live in this box for 30 years. Imagine this year of quarantine where you still had your house and Netflix and video games and shit. Now do that for 30 years in a box. Like, it's fucking crazy. And the casualness with which people are like, throw the book at them is wild to me.
You know, it's interesting. I worked on a show about kids who had been convicted as minors of like violent crimes and sentenced to life life in prison. The first episode we did was this place in Denver, and this individual had been convicted to life in prison. He hadn't killed anyone. He had fired a gun in the air, and a jury of his peers determined that he deserved life in prison. And actually, we interviewed one of the jurors, and they had they're like, I disagreed emphatically, and I wrote a personal letter to the judge and said I disagreed. Like, everybody had an opinion about this. And it was interesting because I was watching this and I thought back to that, and I was like, Cobb's meltdown, like, probably in like the middle of the movie, essentially the face off between Henry Fonda and Cobb is like the big, kind of like the inciting incident in the second half of the movie. Is he literally just says, like, why are you so intent on executing? Like, why are you so intent on laying the hammer down on this guy? Like, the justice you're asking for is not justice. You feel powerful. And I think that's the really important thing and the really fascinating thing about the movie is once the power argument comes into play, everybody starts changing their minds. Because until then, only the old man and only juror number 10 and or juror number 9 and juror number 8 were the ones who were like, yeah, there's reasonable doubt here. But it wasn't until he lost his shit, said, I'll kill him, that he took the power.
Now,
like,
this is
power.
This is one of those moments where it changed in my mind, right? That is such a cinematic moment. Yeah. Because, again, I tell you, I don't know that there's a better staged movie. The setup of where the characters are and how they move in frame is so fucking precise and perfect. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, when he's bitching about the old man, right? Yeah. And he's yelling about the old man next to Peter, the good old man, right? Not the, those people old man. Yeah. And he starts saying, he's like, they're debating about the old man walking and this and that, right? And it's a somewhat absurd thing. It feels like walking around, whatever. An inexact demonstration, right? So he loses it. And he goes, so what? He's a confused old man. How could you believe anything he said? And like the cameras comes in. It's all the other jurors are eyes on him. And he just goes, he like squints his eyes. He's like, fuck. Yeah. He's like, I done had him. But this, and they do that a couple times. Same with the kill moment, right? Where, but this gets back to this is one of those things I think why this movie still will work today really well is because I think one of the hardest things in life, and I think one of the things we most need to grapple with as a people, is this movie's a really interesting case study for keep your fucking mind open and be swayed by other people and their opinion. We have such a thing in this world where no one is willing to change their minds for fear of being dumb or weak or stupid or, something like that. Once you set your feet in the ground, you never can sway from your side. And you see Cobb going down with the ship, juror number 3, because he just cannot admit, because, we see that really what he's doing is convicting his son and he's bringing his personal life in. And this is somewhere where he has control and he doesn't want to relinquish it. He thinks juror number 8 proving his points to him is him personally attacking him. Yeah. When they ask him to lay out the evidence, all he's doing is just spouting out his own rage and hate. Just instead of eloquently stating the obvious problems like juror 8, Fonda, he's just screaming at the fucking universe that dealt him a shitty hand. And so what the movie shows us the power of, if you can keep an open mind and listen and stay calm, how fucking valuable that is. And again, the movie never plays it down the line, right? It's always telling us we could be wrong. This kid could have done it, but that's what we're here to do is like, you got to know if you take his life. Fine. But that's the fucking, the ability for us to change our mind. Like, how many times have you and I done that where it's like, well, we're arguing now. Like, We're going down with this all the way.
I mean, we do it all the time. Like, it's just part of
Every
the deal.
day.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really important and fascinating aspect of the movie is teaching your audience that it's okay to be wrong. Like, it's not a matter of like, this is a movie you walk out of not debating the merits of the case. You debate the merits of these men and whether or not they did the right thing. Like, some people could say that Henry Fonda was a fucking instigator and he was just sitting there the whole time fucking with people. Sure. I mean, look, I can't say that I didn't sit there and think the same thing for like
when he said,
20 minutes.
I don't know if I think he's guilty or not, you're like, well, that's lie number one. Let's add that. That's an absolute fucking lie. You walk to the fucking pub or wherever, the dollar store, and bought a knife,
and found the same fucking knife, and you're just like,
because
assuming,
you're
I don't know.
I'm a pretty wishy-washy fella down here at the end of the table. I don't know. I was like, you fucking clown. Oh, yeah. Not clown. I mean, obviously, he's the defender of all the American legal system. But I was like, you fucking are having these lesser fools.
I mean, there is this like really weird idealized thing that like says it's like claiming the movie is this like Capra-esque vibe of like this legal system works. And obviously, like, we're all cynics and we've grown up in this like horrible society that's been tainted since the 70s by like the Nixons of our era and the Clintons of our lives and the Trumps. So, like, we sit here and we're like,
there we go, dude. We're just going to get bombarded by boomers now. What have you done?
Come at me.
You've unleashed the forces of 12 angry boomers.
Well, no, my point is, though, is like this movie is about like the American legal system working and what it works for. So when you watch Henry Fonda make his points and simply by stating the evidence, because you brought up something really important earlier, and I like it's okay to be wrong. Like, I think that's a really important thing. Like, I'm wrong all the time. Like, life, you can't go through life thinking you're right all the time. Like, no one is right all the time. No one has all the right answers.
If you've never been wrong, you're the dumbest person that's ever lived.
I give my kid French fries. I know it's bad, but he likes them. There you go. Like,
oh, is that wrong? Well, then, add 1,000 to my score.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know I'm wrong.
But it's not even being wrong. It's the nature of not feeling like you have to always go down with the ship.
Not being absolutely right is really important.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's a really great value and really great, interesting lesson this movie teaches is like, dude, it's okay to change your mind and it's okay to
even
be
taking it out of the court. Like, we need this more in life across the board. Because the best scene as far as talking about, because again, most of these would just be hung juries. Or, because at one point, Fonda even says, well, if you guys all vote against me again, I'll cave in. The movie lets us know that with a little wink, like, he knows he's got at least one. But, I mean, they got to, like, the 10th paper before. So there's a chance even he was willing to give up just to kind of go with the flow. So it's really scary in that regard. But there's the scene when the baseball lover is just like, I'm not guilty now. Let's get this over with. And the guy, the legalized immigrant, just is like, you fucking coward. Like, what is wrong with you? And he's like, if you fucking think he's guilty, it's your job, your fucking civic duty to fucking fight for that. And if you think he's innocent, fight for that. Like, what the fuck? And he lays into him. And I was like, that's because I think the sadness of this movie and why it becomes scary, very much like Mr. Smith, is you feel like once you're old enough in the real world that this is not how it works. That's how it should. That's the shining example on the hill. But sadly, you're like, most of those are probably like Fonda caves in, or it's just a hung jury. And they even say a couple times, another jury is going to crush this kid. Yeah. Right. This is his last chance. And they talk it through, but that's probably not
like regular. Fonda opens the movie knowing something is amiss, knowing that not that something's amiss in the case, but knowing there's something amiss in the system that's been built. And so does the naturalized citizen guy. I don't know, maybe he's Italian, but there are people in there who understand the cards are stacked against other people. And I think that's a really fascinating thing because this is like, even with a bunch of no votes, like there's still 3 no votes or guilty votes in the room. When juror number 10 starts going off about those people, you know how they are, they're criminals, all of them. When he goes off on this horribly racist rant about, like, by the way, we don't know anything about we don't know anything about the ethnicity of the kid. We're never told.
Yeah,
Which
just
is
what we saw. And
just what
even
we
that,
saw,
you're
which is
like,
the
you don't
back of
know.
his head, and it's very indistinguishable. The
And
only
his
thing we
big,
know is
beautiful Bambi eyes.
only thing we see in them is he's not Northern European. That's actually something I read is like he's not Northern
If
European.
he was in the room with the 12 angry jurors, he would be easy to pick out. Right? That's all you know.
When that guy starts going off, like this is a really fascinating scene to me because like it is a room of 12 white guys. Like it's a room of 12 white guys, and I joked with you, I'm like, this is like 12 Angry Men or What Whites Say in Private. Like honestly, like but all of them knew the guy was wrong. And that's a really important beat in the movie is like you have no idea what you're talking about because he's not talking about facts of any kind. When the facts are thrown out and all he's doing is shouting his opinion to the heavens, all of them turn their backs on him. They're like, you have lost it. And finally the old guy's like, sit down and shut your mouth. Like,
but that's the moment. Again, that's another aspirational moment where you're like, that's how it should work in the world.
That's exactly how it should work. I'm not
if
saying
someone
it does,
is talking like that, we should all fucking turn our backs and fucking be like, hey, when you're ready to like be a man again, be a human being,
right.
come back.
It's not, but that's because he's not.
That's another
facts.
one of those brilliant staging moments too, is because that's when the devil in the fucking suit, the non-sweating devil,
yeah,
he starts to look around the table and says, oh, fuck, these are the people I'm lumped in with. And I think that's one of the important, because you see it throughout the movie, they start clumping them in different groups. Yeah. And you start getting various 2s and 3s because you see them kind of drifting to people that are, you know, of similar minds. And by the end, because again, that guy's the buttoned up, like, I'm just here to do what's right. When he's the only one maybe left at that table staring right at the face of, oh, fuck, that's the guy who's on my team. Like, maybe that's where the first crack happens for him.
Again, it's a fascinating, and like, again, this whole movie is just a horrifying allegory for 2020, 2021. It's weird because all these people exist now. Like, not a single person in that room doesn't feel authentic even now. And you sit there and watch like a guy like, I know that guy who will fucking shout to the rafters. I had this experience today. Like, it was not anything racist or anything like that, but literally, like, I said one thing about a movie trailer I watched and was absolutely bombarded by people who are like, how could you? What is your problem? What is your opinion? Why do you think it is? I'm like, oh my God, guys, like, I just asked a question. Like, I just had one thought. And it's a fascinating thing because when you think about it, this movie is this microcosm of just all our lives all the time. It's an evergreen concept that people sit in a room. We sit on a pod.
12 angry Twitter users.
12 angry Twitter users. I mean, it's what it is. Like, it's a fascinating thing to watch. And it's like, it's horribly apt in like the worst ways and some of the best ways, but like mostly the worst ways because there's, you know, how rare is it to find a Peter Fonda or Henry Fonda in the
that's why this movie to me will remain evergreen, is because what it breaks down to is these basic big concepts of what it means to be not only part of a society, but just a human being.
Yes.
And I think the movie always comes back to those points, right? And it's almost nauseatingly optimistic, but it fucking should be. It should be.
It has to be.
It doesn't shy away from showing us the bad sides, but it does ask us to believe that the better natures of our soul will win out, right? And I don't know if it does, but again, another cinematic moment I love is the first time that the not guilties take the advantage. Instead of these long shots, right, wider shots, we cut away to every single person's raised hand. Boom, 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 boom. Just hand after hand after hand. Close up on the jury foreman. And then from there, as we start arguing, now we're getting close on the faces, right? Mm-hmm. Because now people are taking it as you're voting them guilty, right? Because they think he's guilty. And that's kind of the brilliance of this, right? And I mean, I think I come back to the old man a lot, right? Like just him saying, like, when he talks about the old man who gives testimony, Where he's like, he's not lying. He's just a man who's not been listened to. He hasn't met. It's a hard thing to be nothing. And I think a lot of us, when we get called into service, right? I live in a neighborhood, right? And we have an HOA. And my theory is always people who want to be on the HOA or PTAs or whatever the fuck, right? Should not be allowed because there's something wrong with them. They want to fucking meddle and cause problems. And that's kind of how juries feel to me too, right? Is if you're too amped to be on a jury, it's like you said, you're there for other things, right? There aren't going to be a lot of impartial, high-minded people probably just carrying out jury duty. And you hope there are. Look, but this is probably more realistic.
My first year in LA, I got called in for jury duty, and I got...
Who'd you say Andrea was going to kill?
I got assigned, and they were doing jury selection. And there was a guy sitting next to me who... We're in Hollywood, of course. We're in Los Angeles, so there's at least one writer on the panel. There's a guy sitting next to me taking notes of the proceedings. The judge stops everything. He says, "Sir, what are you writing down?" He goes, I'm a writer, so I just like, taking notes of what's happening. He goes, "Don't do that." Puts it down. I'm like, this guy's the fucking meddler. This is the guy who this is the cob of the group. He wants to win the jury.
He's going to be in that jury room just like writing the third act.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
This is going to be
like
sick.
He's like, this is going to be great. Like I saw it and there's a woman sitting next to me. She was a children's book author and she goes, "I don't know what that fucking guy's problem is." I'm like, "Neither do I. I don't know why you'd ever want to write any of this down." I got out, by the way. I didn't have to actually do the trial, but and it was because I knew legal terms, and I told them I didn't know what emotional damage was.
Yeah, you're like, I am emotional damage is what you try.
The lawyer questioned me and said, "Do you understand what emotional damage is?" I'm like, "I mean, I understand the words you're saying. It just seems stupid. So I'm not good at." And
get that snarky bitch out of here.
And then the judge was like, "Mr. Dandino, if I was to give you a scale how to judge, would you be able to figure out?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, obviously." And then 2 minutes later, like, "Hey, juror number 16, you can go."
You're like, "Pipe down, Judge Judy. I got this." Like, get that fuck out of here.
Get that fucking guy out. Yeah. So again, I would never be the juror number 8 or the juror number 3 because I'd be fucking out of there. But people who want to do their civic duty, you're right, are often doing it for the wrong reasons. So when people are called upon to do it, the happenstance.
And the rest of us are running away, not doing our civic duty. So it's not like I'm some kind of fucking better angel.
Right, of course. The rest of us are trying to get out of there.
We just try to dodge.
But here's the thing. Like, we are better angels because we're trying to dodge that civic responsibility because, quite frankly, we don't want to be put in that position.
Yeah, I know I'm not good enough to judge anyone else in the universe, so I
refuse to judge anyone else because, I'm shit anyway.
I will judge the shit out of fictional humans, but I try very hard to not do that in life and run away.
I'll sit here and judge juror number 10 all day long, but...
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like most of us would look at Fonda and say the same thing baseball guy did. Wait, what are you getting out of this? Kicks? Like, man, you're the master of this. Like, it's some kind... They think it's his crusade. You don't realize till the end is that maybe it's the right thing. I think that's what the movie is great because it asks us these big questions. The characters are great. It's so captivating. You're being pulled in the screen as the camera gets closer. One last thing before we get out of here. What do you make of the decision to put this during a heat wave?
Loved that.
I was torn because you're like, it feels like it's already going to be tense. Do we need the heat? But there is something extra to it. What does the heat do for you in this movie?
I mean, to me, it's it's what we've been talking about, like why this works so well as a translation to screen, because it's a visual element that, yes, like obviously if it's hot, people want to get the fuck out of there, so they're going to argue as quickly as humanly possible. And like Fonda does such a good job of like pissing everyone off early by simply being like, just get some questions, I don't know. And it's hot and sticky and nobody wants to be in there. And then the rain starts coming down. Like, I think that's a really interesting thing is like the rain starts coming down and everyone's like, huh. Like, that's when things start kind of cooling off. So
that's when they figure out the fan works. Because that was like, I was like, another reminder that these are not as observant geniuses as they think they are.
But I mean, from a like filmmaking standpoint, what it does is gives you the visual representation of pressure, which is these guys sweating. Like I noticed the baseball guy. I think juror number 7 was the guy that I noticed. Like his shirt had like particular sweat stains, and I think that's a really great visual cue to see how people are. Thank you. God damn, it's fucking driving me nuts.
I know.
I've seen him in a million movies, and I just couldn't fucking remember his name. But like, it's a great visual cue, and it works really well for the movie because you're not only in the hot box, you're in a hot seat anyway. You're not in a hot seat, you're in a hot box. Like overall, the pressure cooker is on, and then visually, all these guys are sweating because they're trying to figure out what's the right decision here.
Well, I love the storm too because it kind of cuts off the outside world.
Yes.
And then once the fan's on, it's like, now you don't need to run out of this room. Fucking sit
now you have to sit
here.
in this.
Right? Don't do that hang jury bullshit. Figure this out. It made me wonder. I was like, what if juries had to come to a consensus? What if we threw out hung juries and we said, you have to agree? Right? How different the legal system would, I don't know, better or worse. I'm not a fucking scholar. But it does make you think this movie, right? Because if they just go hung, that kid probably suffers the same fate, sadly, right?
Right.
So I think it's, honestly, I watched it again. I was like, it's poetry, man. This movie really is poetry. And I know it's a little probably overly aspirational for some's taste, but I think it does a good job of showing the warts. And again, it's that Churchill thing we've talked about this month, right? This is the worst system except for every other system. You know, I wouldn't want to be dealing with like the Mad Queen in Wonderland that cut off her head, you know, like,
yeah.
You always have a shot if there's 12, right? It takes one guy can turn it around, one guy being decent and empathetic. I don't know. I like seeing
outside themselves.
Yeah, I like seeing the devil in the system sweat. Is the system itself, the visual representation of the stuffy system, had to grapple with, oh fuck, what have I become? And he sweats one, you know, because the devil sweats, as we learned from Al Pacino, profusely sweats. But
that's right. Supposing you're supposing.
Supposing I'm supposing. I don't know. I was impressed by how much visual craft was in this movie this go around. The performances are obviously top flight. The writing is sharp. The staging and cinematography is beautiful. And I think this is a great way to end Court because I think it's a little bit aspirational, but we gotta hope that it can be better. And maybe it reminds us to be better in and out of a juror's box, whatever the fuck that's called.
One note that I read this, apparently because of the way the room was lit, anytime they changed they couldn't shoot it in one shot. So they had to shoot all the scenes pointing one direction of lighting in one shot. So like these guys were memorizing their lines, but also doing whole chunks outside of context. So imagine doing that and not in just one fell swoop, but literally the movie being like Frankenstein together into this patchwork. And that's what we got. That is absolutely amazing to me.
Fucking smooth. The pacing of it is pure magic. But yeah, that's it, guys, for 12 Angry Men. That's us. We have reached a verdict. Court movies.
Rule.
Splendid. Next month.
Love them, yeah.
The pod joins a band, you hear? The pod's starting a band. We're starting off with what might be my favorite movie of the 2010s. Easily one of the most underappreciated movies that I can think of. Sing Street, man. A movie that just makes you want to live better. I can't wait for the pod joins the band month. Thank you guys for doing the Court month. Again, great guests coming up. Please take a second, leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. Please feel free to email us, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Please find us on all the social media you're on and help us spread the word of the pod to your other movie-loving friends. More than anything, please come back, y'all. You hear? For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm trying number 13, Alex Tandino.
I've had enough of this poppycock. I'm out.